order. Good morning, everyone. We have one new member, Marv Seipel. I thought I'd ask Marv for a moment to just introduce yourself, please.
Okay, Marvin Seipel. My family's been a resident of Clearwater for over 100 years. I was born at Morton Plant Hospital. Been on the water since I was 10 years old, and hopefully I can add something to the Marine Advisory Board.
You don't look that old.
Thank you.
Welcome, Marvin.
Thank you.
Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on December the 11th. I presume everyone has read them. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second. Seconded. And all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, I presume. So that's done. So before we move into the new and old business items, is there anyone here that wishes to speak on an item that's not on today's agenda? Okay, so that's a no. So let's move to the new business items. We need to elect a new chair and vice chair for the next year. And as we start, I think, and Danny, you can help me perhaps with this, or maybe you can't. I think my term is up. I've been told by the city that my time on the board is probably at the end, as of the end of March, and that's fine. And I have reapplied, and if there's an opening and if there's a desire for the city for me to still be on the board, then I'll come back for at least a couple of years. But aside from that, I think my time as chair is also up. And that I think, regardless of what happens, staying on the board or not, my time as chair is up. So we need a nomination at this point in time for first a new chairman for the next year, starting after today's meeting. Does anyone want to make a nomination? I think I can, if I can, right?
Nominate keeping him on the board because he's
Well, that's probably up to the city. But
the only one that's been here longer than me, apparently, because they haven't thrown me off yet. And I asked that question at the last.
Pardon me?
I was afraid my time was up too.
Oh.
And
Well, second turn. I'll verify with Nicole on the logistics of that, and we'll get an email out.
yes, I didn't necessarily count, but it seemed like it was 4 years. Well, 8 years.
Yeah, two terms of 4 years is the time on the board. In my case, was a little extra because I started by filling someone's unexpired term, followed by two 4-year terms. So you think you've done 2 4-year terms?
He has.
He has.
Yeah.
So that throws a cog in the wheel because even though I hadn't asked you, I had intended to nominate Kevin as chairman.
And I would-
I'm not quite
and I would
sure
be
how
happy to
proceed
accept.
now at this point in time.
I hate to see you leave the board.
Thank you.
And as chairman, you proved it when you went before the city council for us last year, and gave that great presentation, succinct presentation after you had to follow the vaudevillian guy.
Accomplished
Who was,
actors.
the city council meeting was before Mike did his presentation. It was about the benefits of community theater and theater for our new theater on Highland Avenue that we opened this year. So needless to say, I was very into that, but the guy was a showman and put on a wonderful presentation of the millions of dollars that community theater brings into your community. Surprisingly, outside dollars, especially, and did this wonderful presentation, and you could just see the look on Mike's face when he got up there, like, how do you follow that? But you did a great job, and I don't know, is there a way around? Not,
Not that I can speak on right now. So
can we delay the vote on the positions until we see if Mike and I are allowed to stay? Because I would like to stay also.
I'll reach out to Nicole real quick and see if I can get an answer. We can delay it in this meeting and we'll
Okay.
circle back.
Okay, so let's
Okay.
hang on to that for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, and see if that's possible. Okay, so we'll skip that one for now and move on to old business items. And the first being the Beach Marina Commercial Tenant Outreach Group update. Is there someone here that's going to speak to that? Is there anyone that will speak to the outreach group
Sorry, I was
update?
just coordinating coordinating
Sure.
with.
Okay.
We
Who's this guy in the
came in
suit?
a little
Yeah, I
late.
know, right.
Who's this guy in the suit jacket?
That's Mike all dressed up.
Good morning, William Hodson, Division Manager, Marine and Aviation Department. For the Beach Marina Commercial Tenant Outreach Group update, TJ Leonard will be speaking to you in just a second. He is the boat captain for the Stella Fishing Company, also known as the Legend and the Lore, the two boats out there. Real quick though, the commercial fleet, they've completed a move to the newly repaired East Dock. As you know, the East Dock, that was always part of the plan, is that during phase one of the construction, the commercial fleet would move to the East Dock. That dock sustained significant damage, as you're aware. We ran into a situation where the crew that was hired to repair the East Dock was the same crew doing demolition in the marina. It seemed to make sense since they were already mobilized, already had equipment there. Well, but the issue we ran into, as soon as they were done with the East Dock, they wanted to start demolition right away because equipment sitting idle is still costing money. So the commercial fleet, in a very short notice, were told they had to move over a holiday weekend, February 14th, Valentine's Day, and then President's Day on the 17th. But I just want to thank the commercial fleet. They got it done. They moved in the 4 days. It wasn't easy. There were a lot of jumping through hoops, but they got it done. So I'm very thankful for them for their cooperation in this and not delaying the project anymore. So I now introduce you to TJ Leonard. Come up, say a few, give you some updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you guys for the opportunity for me to come up here and speak with you
Good
guys.
morning.
Just an update, as Bill was saying, we have all moved down to that east end of the dock by the fuel dock, which was honestly, everyone was pretty worried about the transition, but those guys made it super smooth. I want to give a huge shout out to Mike, Bill, and Larry down there. They've been a major asset to making this transition during these tough times as easy as possible. You got a lot of different business owners down there, a lot of different opinions on how things should be done. And these guys are more than willing to work with us. So definitely a huge shout out to that team, especially dealing with like the hurricane mess on top of construction. I would not want to be in those guys' shoes. I'd rather just go catch fish. My life's a lot easier. But yeah, so we're also, some of the tenants are also getting together, and then we're going to try and form a committee, Marina Tenant Association. And the city has approved the start of the nonprofit Marina Association that will consist of 5 board members and an association will consist of 5 board members. An association like this takes some money to start up with, and we are working right now for possible support from the county and the city. Approximately, it's going to cost $30,000 to start it, and the overall goal is to sell the marina to visitors and locals after the marina project to try and promote all the hard work and how good the marina is going to end up looking. To maintain the association, we're going to offer different packages to tenants in the marina to be a part of it, and we'll have incentives for them to do so, Facebook pages and stuff like that. So like I said, I really appreciate the time that you guys let me come up here and speak, and I really excited for the future of the marina.
Good. Any questions for TJ? Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Very good. Bill, the next item is the marina reconstruction.
Kind of mixing both the marina reconstruction and the harbor marina repairs update. Here today from our engineering department is project manager, engineer Kelly Petrich, and he'll provide some updates on both those locations.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kelly Petrich, engineer
Hi,
2 with
Kelly.
the city of Clearwater. I've actually taken this project over from Jeff Walker, who will be retiring from the city. And so, as you know, a lot of storm damage was happened during hurricanes, the last 2 hurricanes here in October. Because of that, we've had some major damage to the cables in both the north and south marina here at the harbor marina. So our first order of business, we're going out to bid with CMAR, with Kokalakis Construction, and they're going to do the chaining for the project. We're getting bids right now. We're hoping to start that chaining process for the north and south end here in April or May, hopefully after we get our contractor on board to do that. And then as far as the wave attenuator project on the south end, due to FEMA regulations, we were originally going to do a CMAR, but now we're going to do a low bid process. Because of that, I've had to add additional scope to Moffitt Nichols. So we're in the process of adding additional items from going from a CMAR to a low bid project as far as bid items and also updating the specs so we can go out for bidders in that process. Let's see. And then also I'm going to have Moffitt Nichols do a design. They're reviewing the north end and all the damage there. So we're in the process of getting a design to fix all the storm damage on the north end. Once we get that design, then we'll go out for bid on that as well. So those are the major updates at the Harbor Marina. Anybody have any questions?
Does that mean you're going for the contractor that offers the cheapest price?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Instead of one in the middle? Because, I mean, I tend to think if it's the highest bidder, I'm overpaying, and if it's the lowest bidder, I'm getting cheap quality.
Well, it's the lowest qualified bidder, so they'll also submit qualifications. We check that as well. And this is all due to FEMA regulations. We have to go out for bid to get the FEMA funding.
So
I would assume all bids are apples for apples, right?
Yeah, we also review all the bids.
That's what I mean.
We'll have a list of line items, and the engineering department will go through each bid. And if we have any questions, we also follow back up with all the bidders to make sure all the bids are equal and complete. And we also basically we'll do the specifications around the products we want, the different docks and things like that. So we could specify exactly what kind of product we want out there.
So it has to be detailed identically with,
Yeah.
yeah,
So without a design or bids, I know it's a hard question to answer, but any idea roughly when the storm damage might be finally repaired?
On the wave attenuators or the north end?
The north end, I was thinking.
That's going to be over a process. Yeah, by the time we get all the design work, we'll probably begin construction, we hope, within 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And then it depends on what we end up. We're still in the process
Go
of
through another season of
evaluating all the
storms.
dock damage. I'm sorry, what was that?
Go through another season of storms first.
Yeah, that's why we want to definitely get those, the chaining in place to keep, because the
Oh, I
cables
see.
have broken throughout the harbor marina. So we want to get that emergency cables done before the storm season to keep the marina in place. That's our main concern right now. Basically,
how dangerous are the slips or the dock itself right now? I mean, in the condition it's in.
Well, right now, we feel safe on it, but the next storm season can make it,
Sure.
really bad.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to once we get that chaining in place, we'll be very confident that it'll be safe during the same storm season.
Right.
So.
All right, thank you.
Thank
And you're going to address the marina reconstruction, did I hear?
Going to the beach.
Sure.
Okay, as far on the beach marina update, we are on schedule right now. I'm very happy with our contractor, with Orion and Kokalakis out there. For some of the dates, phase one is scheduled to end on September 26th of this year. We're still scheduled for a substantial completion in June of 26 right now, and some updates on some of the activities going on out there. So right now, Orion subcontracting, their barge and crane was back on site on 2/26, and they're going to start pile driving again. We're working with under Orion. We're going to have Golden, which is working on our docks, the floating docks, and our first delivery will be in June on that. So that's also on schedule. One of the big achievements we got our Army Corps permits. That was really quite a hurdle to get through. So we have the permit in hand, and also another big achievement, of course, was the floating docks where we passed the flood board. So that was a big hurdle for us as well, and we're really happy to get our floating dock design approved and going forward. So we have all of our permits in place. The last permit we need to get is for the kiosk, and then meeting with the building department from a fixed that we're going to go to a temporary kiosk system, and it's going to be similar to the ones here at Coachman Park. That's what we're looking at doing. And then this way we'll be able to remove the kiosk during storms as well, and we'll meet all the FEMA regulations. So That's where we're going to go going forward, and that'll be the last permit we have, the county permit. We have all the other permits needed.
What is the height of the pilings going to be? Because I noticed that by 18 inches, the Harbor Marina could have ended up in Coachman Park with another 18 inches of water. Are you confident that the pilings are of sufficient length to accommodate that?
Yes, definitely, and we're very we're excited to go from a fixed dock system to the floating docks.
Right, but I'm
And-
saying the
yeah.
pilings that secure that in extreme tide, it would float right off the top of the piling.
Yeah, that's what they're designed. The actual fuel docks and the floating docks, that's going to be designed to be able to withstand it. And we've actually had some really good videos that we've seen on Golden's. Some of the products we've seen throughout the here in Florida. I forgot what city that was in, but we actually saw it during the storm, and the docks actually were handled very well during all.
All right,
the
I
storm.
understand that, but
Yeah.
if you get 10 feet of tide and you have a 9-foot piling, your docks are going to float off the top of it, and that's my question. The length of the piling to accommodate. high
Yeah,
water.
we've raised the actual
Okay, good.
on that
good.
as well. Sorry
And
about that.
Also, anything on the Seminole Street ramp update?
Yes, I'm actually the project manager. I've taken that over as well. So we have officially got a low bidder, which we're going to go for council on the 3rd of April. So we're going to proceed with the low bidder on that. And then once we get the council approval for that bidder, we're going to start construction here in April.
Okay, permits are all in place, everything?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I would just comment, so first of all, you obviously have your plate pretty full. Sounds like you have all the projects, but in any event, I would just comment that, one of the biggest headaches associated with this project was the lane closure on Coronado for several weeks or a couple of months. And I know there was a huge effort to try to get that out of there by March 1st. I really didn't think it was going to happen, but you all pulled it off. So congratulations.
Yeah,
and
that
thank
was-
you, finally getting that thing out of there. As you move forward, are there times where you're going to have to close that again during cement pours or otherwise? No?
I know, I think we're looking in June just for the sidewalk portion, but we won't have a full lane
Just for
closure again.
sidewalk.
That was due to the piling,
Yeah,
all
I
the
know.
H piles are
I
in.
know.
So that was a
Just
restriction.
gigantic headache. Wow.
Yeah, we
Some of the
definitely want to get
biggest
that done.
traffic jams I think we've ever seen on the beach. My goodness. Okay, well, anyway, well done to get it finished as early as you did. Thank you.
So what about temporarily, I mean, on the new marina, do we have like pump outs or there's no fuel, right? I mean,
Currently at the beach, no, there's no fuel at the beach.
yeah, the pump outs don't work or anything like that either,
No,
right?
not at the beach. We have local pumps working at the harbor.
Right, right. And that's not planned. You're not planning on doing any of that until the marina is completely built, right?
Weren't you bringing in fuel trucks? I
We
thought-
are allowing the commercial tenants
Oh,
to fuel over the
just for
seawall
commercial.
right now. We are investigating having temporary pumping systems installed so we can begin to pump from our own tanks. We're working on that this week. We hope to have that. We're looking at a couple fill-right dispensers at one of the slips where, right next to Starlight Majesty, it's a fairly large slip that boats can pull in. So we'll hopefully be pumping from our own tanks within a month or so.
Gasoline as well as diesel?
Yes, sir. One of each.
Okay.
They'll be kind of like the agricultural pumps you see with the fill
Sure.
right along with the meter. They'll be certified so we can pump to the general public as well.
Okay.
Good. I asked that question because we're doing pump outs at Clearwater Yacht Club, putting in a pump out system. And a person made a statement that it's the same company that was doing the marinas doing ours, that they wanted to do them both at the same time. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's even anywhere in the near.
Are you
future.
talking EMP?
I think that's who it is.
EMP, they were doing the harbor marine. So they've just got the harbor marine up and running. The north basin and south basin of the harbor marine,
Okay,
those pump outs. EMP was doing those.
okay.
But yeah, I can't imagine EMP is going to wait till August of 26.
I know, I mean, that was the reason I asked, and I was like, I don't think they're not putting any pump
Yeah,
outs.
that's between your yacht.
But they
club
said the
and
new
EMP.
marina, and I'm like, I don't think so. Anyway, okay.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Next is I guess, the anchor limitation area.
Anchor limitation area. Before I move on to that, Jeff Walker will be retiring. He was the engineer that you probably all have seen him. I just want to thank him for his passion. He's aggressive when it comes down to these
looking at the scope and looking at what the city's really getting, what the company says we're getting. He's been amazing for us. And he has passed, his plate was full and he's passed that all on to Kelly. So we'll be seeing a lot more Kelly. But anchor limitation area, as previously reported, it's been established. All the signage is in place. The police department, they've begun documenting all the vessels that are currently anchored, educating the boat owners as well as people on the vessels that they will be enforcing this anchor limitation area. I reached out to them yesterday to see if they had the police department, see if they had anything else to add. And that's pretty much it. They're just education and they'll begin enforcement for that.
Did they find that all the boats they visited were actually occupied?
I don't know how many are actually occupied. I didn't ask that question.
Because that's always been our biggest concern is it's
Right. It's a
ones that are
floating
parking there
storage.
just because
Right.
they don't want to see that
Right.
boat again and leave it to us.
Right. I know they have identified the owners and the owners have been noticed. And yeah, there is, at some point, they'll be tagged as derelict if the owners are unresponsive and they then come out of the anchor limitation area restrictions and go into just a derelict vessel at that point.
The one area that I don't understand, or anyway, is why we don't make those people submit some kind of a log as to when they're having, especially the people staying on their boats, when they're actually having a pump out. There just isn't any way those people are staying on those boats and using their facilities if they're
Right.
not dumping overboard.
Right.
And-
There's really no law on the books that we could look to enforce that or force them to create a law that's
I mean,
And
it's
then-
illegal to pump over,
right.
but we know they are pumping over
Right.
because there just isn't. Listen, I see stuff come by my house sometimes and I know that somebody pumped out. I know what it looks like.
Mhm.
And it floats right by my dock on Mandalay Channel. And it's usually like real early in the morning, you'll see it, or late in the afternoon, you'll see it. But that's the part. If we're going to make it legal for them to anchor off for months, or, a number
It's
of
always
times.
been legal to anchor.
I know
We're
that.
just establishing a limit on how long they can anchor.
Right, but with no restriction or validation that they're not breaking the law by pumping overboard.
Right. That would be on a law enforcement side. We don't have those law enforcement powers.
Aren't there, I know there are regulations regarding the presence and functionality of marine sanitation devices and having your overboard discharge
Correct. You're talking
physically
about the wipe
locked or
outs.
disabled. Yeah, I mean, and to your point, how many of those people don't even have a functioning MSD, much less
Right.
any certification or paperwork on it?
I agree. I just can't speak to
But,
the
yeah,
law
I think
enforcement
that's a law
efforts of
enforcement,
FWC,
But
Coast Guard, or
sure.
local PD. Any other questions about anchor limitation?
Slightly unrelated, but you mentioned it. It looks like all the vessels that were washed up onto the causeway from the storms are gone. Is that true? Are there any left?
On the,
On-
you're talking about on the
Clearwater
south side of the
Causeway, all
causeway
those that were
coming?
washed
No,
up
those
from
those have all been,
derelict
those
vessels.
have all been taken care
They're
of.
all done. Yeah, that's what I
Those have
thought.
all been
Good,
taken
good.
care of.
Well done. Good.
There is a statewide contract as well, I know, on a side note, where they'll be using Seminole Boat Ramp for a couple of weeks to take care of some derelict vessels in the Pinellas County area.
Okay.
But that will be before the repairs start, obviously, for Seminole Boat Ramp.
Great. All right, and I think your last item then is the Stevens Creek study.
Stevenson's Creek, just kind of a recap, the feasibility study was done to create a slow speed zone in the creek. That study would be from the entrance to Stevenson's Creek to the Douglas Avenue Bridge there, or Fairmount Street and Douglas Avenue Bridge. Everything from the Douglas Avenue Bridge east is already a slow speed, no wake or minimum wake zone. The report looked at the stability of the shoreline as well, and if you had a chance to read the report at all, 64% of the shoreline is mangroves, another over 20% is already riprap or seawall. So the conclusion of the shoreline indicated that erosion is not taking place along the shoreline. The report then looked at three scenarios to establish a slow speed zone. That would be boater safety, a state manatee zone, or a local ordinance creating a manatee zone. Engineers determined that the local ordinance for the manatee zone would be the best possible way to establish that slow speed. The engineers would need to establish evidence of the presence of manatees using local volunteers to help gather the needed data using a citizen science approach. It's basically The study was $163,000 is what it's going to cost. There's no source to fund that right now, for us. So that would fall on the local advocacy group for the Stevenson's Creek. So with the citizen science, it's a collaborative effort, helps reduce the cost. So the 163 maybe could come down significantly. One of the biggest costs is the surveys or the aerial surveys that would be needed to try and monitor the manatee activity. With local citizens being able to monitor that basically from their backyards, that would greatly reduce that cost. But that's going to have to be a collaborative effort. We do have a First Line Coastal will provided the estimate for that, and they would be the ones that would help lead the study if we decide to go that route. But again, there's not any local funding for it right now.
Don't they have to, wouldn't that have to be kind of seasonal? I mean, there's a time when we have more manatees and a time when we don't, when we have very few.
Correct. It would be seasonal, but even when it's not, say, mating season or where they're nursing calves in there, are there any they would also study, are there any warm water locations where it might be good for during the winter time? So you say seasonal, thinking warm weather where the manatees are more active. But in the wintertime, if there's any kind of warm water discharge or warm water entering that where manatees would congregate, we would be able to identify that through a citizen type science approach.
So it might be better in the winter. Is there, do you know the temperature of the creek? Do you know,
No.
is it runs at any kind of above?
It's not as stable because it's a 6,000 acre watershed. So
Yeah.
it's just dependent on runoff, rainwater. It's not like you're talking about Three Sisters or something where there's a spring that is keeping a current stable temperature.
70 some degrees.
We don't have that.
It's typically pretty close to whatever the seawater temperature is in my experience.
Correct.
Okay.
I think my latest information said that collecting that current data would take about a year, I believe.
I'm sorry.
I think it was my understanding that collecting all that data would take about a year to
For the
establish
survey?
the
Correct. It would have to
manatee
span at least full seasons.
Mhm.
So a year is probably an accurate estimate. Any other questions on?
Keep moving forward on it.
Any other items from you then, Bill?
Other than director's report?
Yes?
Director's report, I'll talk about we're currently, Marine and Aviation Department is out of 410 North Myrtle right now because our offices were flooded, as you know. We received a work order and have selected an architect to provide the design drawings for our new office space. Once those are approved, they'll go to the city construction team to begin work. We hope within the next couple of months, we have something in hand and we'll see some work starting.
New office space back in the marina.
Yes, sir. The new office space it still would be 25 Causeway Boulevard, but we are going to occupy some of the same footprint, but we're going to change the orientation of the layout. So if you know where the parking office is, and then right next to the parking office was the Remax office, that is now going to be our new front door to the dockmaster's office. It just made sense to have a more forward facing. It faces the parking lot. It's more accessible to the public or more in view to the public as the parking office is. And that would free up a lot of the window space, prime real estate that I think would just add to the new marina's experience by having that as retail space. So people frequenting that area would be able to look out onto the marina through all the window frontage there. So we've just used this as an opportunity to reorient our office, make it a little better experience at the marina.
Yep.
And wasn't there damage to this building down the hill here? You have another little office right here.
No, the Harbor Marina, talking about 206 Pierce Street.
Am I pointing the wrong direction? Oh, yes.
Yes.
I'm pointing the wrong direction.
There was no damage to the building at all. That building
Oh.
is sufficiently high enough. There was 210, that's the old marina office. We don't have that anymore. That's occupied by Parks and Rec.
Right.
So I can't speak to the damage on that, but the new harbor office was fine downtown. On another topic, I heard you talk about the waterway and the signs missing and all. We've had all the signs, we've identified all the signs and all the damaged pilings and everything needs to be fixed. We just picked the signs up last week. All of the signage, everything from the speed sign you were talking about, to marker, waterway markers, the wayfinding signs, those you should, by end of next week, start seeing those up. Marine and Aviation just got a new barge, a new crane, new barge. Our old one was out of service and it's going to auction. That we anticipate that barge being delivered, if not tomorrow, the beginning of next week, and we're gonna put that to use right away.
Is there any possibility of them being able to drag those floating markers that comes into Mandalay, drag them out about another 100 yards? Because people, they don't stop at the markers.
Right.
They pass the markers and then somebody goes, oh, we probably should have stopped. And then they slow down and they're already 100 yards past it before they sit down.
Right.
And every one of those boats just shoves a wake right into my boat.
Yeah, that would require basically FWC permits to relocate them.
Yeah.
And,
I
put them
thought,
at
go out
that
after
spot,
night
but
and drag it out.
it certainly isn't off the table while we're doing these markers as an opportunity, because there's several pilings that are gone.
Oh, yeah, I've
And
seen.
we'll have to install new ones, and then we have to report the new location, whether it be a few feet one way or the other, once it's installed. So that might be an opportunity to try to relocate those and get those as part of the permit. Any other questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I omitted to ask earlier, yeah, I think I know what I forgot to ask, and I apologize. Was there anyone that wished to speak on items that were on the agenda? Yeah, please.
Yes, I'm here to speak about Stevenson Creek.
Yeah, please come to the microphone and introduce yourself, and I think you have 3 minutes to present, please.
I'm Alexandra Nixon. I'm the president of the
Yes.
Stevenson Creek Advocacy Group.
Hmm.
That was mentioned earlier. We've been working with the city, and we're very grateful for the feasibility study, because that's a big development for Stevenson Creek. I'm not sure you're fully aware of the history, the long, long history of Stevenson Creek, and I'd like to say just a few words about that. We had reached a level of eutrophication, yes, I think that's the right word, of the waters in the late 1990s, because the creek was just considered as a dump for everything. So an enormous project was engaged from 1999 to 2014 to completely clean the creek, reconceive the whole Glen Oaks Golf Park into a stormwater management area, which has led to the beautiful park we have today with different retention ponds. Stevenson Creek actually runs all the way down to Largo, so it's not a little tiny, river that serves no purpose. As you probably certainly know, all of you, it's crucial to our stormwater and tidal management, and has been causing issues for a long, long time for many residents who live along there, not so much in the estuary area, but further down the creek. They have, some people are having a lot of problems with high water and flooding and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's not the point today. Coming back to the feasibility study, one of the features that's really interesting is the shoreline study, because since we stopped the dredging in 2014, a TMDL was done by Pinellas County back then, and a few studies to see the state of the waters after the cleanup, which was not brilliant, but it was certainly better than it was before the project started. And then, there was a lack of interest, I think, and a lack of budget, because, it was such a huge budget to get it clean. So we haven't had any type of data for the past 10 years, which is one of the issues we feel is a significant one. You may also know that there's currently an extremely contentious multi-boat commercial dock permit request ongoing by Valor Capital to develop this 9 to 10 slip boat dock right at the estuary, just next to the bridge, very close to the quite narrow navigable channel. And coming to the manatee question, we know for a fact, because a lot of the people in our association are residents, that there are manatees there almost every year. That manatees, there've been manatee injuries reported. So in light of this report, and because of the budgetary constraints, and we're all volunteer associations, we've now engaged in a partnership with Save the Manatee Club, which is led by Dr. Beth Brady, And we are engaging in the citizen study of not only the manatees, but pretty much everything we can find out, which is, studying the other wildlife. We have a lot of dolphins. We know manatees are there already now, and they're probably going to stay through the winter because we counted manatees after the hurricanes. So they were still there in November. And we just got pics now in January and February. I don't think they disappeared in December. It's just that we weren't looking. There are a lot of manatees with females with their calves. And
We're going to have to
shoreline
call
study-
time on you here shortly, Alex. Go
I
ahead and
know.
finish, please.
I just wanted to point that out. I'm going to
Okay.
let my Vice President, Daryl Lakey, then continue.
Before
Behind me.
you go, let me just ask if there are any questions from board members for you.
I'm just not sure.
The
what-
one study said there was no shoreline damage from the boats. I found that kind of hard to believe
There's,
I know a lot of the speed violations there are maybe from a few select culprits that may live on the creek, but it's hard to think that so many people have come before us over the years saying these people are ruining my yard, they're ruining this, that they could do a study and see no shoreline damage. Just seems-
as far as we know at this time, but we're going to put up some trail cameras. We feel there is relatively low traffic. The speeder incursions are very often skidoos or little motorized boats by duck hunters or things like that. They're mostly visitors because the people who live there are very careful. And I think Daryl will be able to speak a lot more on that because he's one of the boat owners on the creek. I think the presence of mangroves and not too much boat traffic at this time has helped keep everything very natural, and it's also attracted a lot of wildlife. And, one of our concerns by building up the North Bank and the estuary and allowing many, many exceptions and deviations to code to do these commercial docks is that if we're going to fill that estuary with boats for the Serena residents to be able to enjoy their time while they're visiting, we're going to create a lot more boat traffic. What guarantees that these people are not going to have all sorts of skidoos and friends and students who come over for spring break? That's where the manatees and the wildlife goes through. The channel is like so wide.
Right.
If you have all the manatees and then these boats speeding over there, that's a big issue.
Okay.
So I'll let Daryl continue because I've taken more than my time if I've answered your
Yeah,
question.
one more question.
I said, weren't the docks approved?
So they were approved by the CDB.
Right.
Yes.
And
they were
currently
permitted.
the permitting process is stuck at Pinellas County in Southwest Florida Water Management District, and then it will move up I think to the EPA and the U.S. Corps of Engineers. We are, of course, opposing this permit. We were not able to oppose it at the time of the CDB meeting because the appeal period was only.
Are there really
15
commercial docks though, or residential? I thought
Well,
the
they're
docks
for
were-
exclusive residential
I hear you say
use.
commercial, but I thought they're residential for those townhomes or whatever. it be.
I understand that according to the terminology, they're declared as commercial, multi-boat commercial docks because they're much wider than code normally provides
My
for.
understanding
Code
of
provides
the-
for one dock per 200 feet, one per 200, right?
My
One dock
understanding
per
of a
200
commercial
feet.
dock, there has to be access to the public. It has to be for benefit of the public. That is a private dock. Now, if by code, because of size or something, it's listed as commercial. But also, I believe if it is commercial, now you got NFPA 303 for docks and marinas coming into for fire protection on a commercial dock.
Yeah, I
And on a
understand
residential dock, you
those
don't,
permits
so-
will be issued down the road if these initial steps are approved. And, there's a traditional history on the creek. Houses have one dock, one house, one dock. Here we have a building with 110 units plus 12 townhouses that are coming in. We have a condominium that's selling with docks when everybody's always been told that the condominium will never have docks, but the permit is actually applied for in the name of the townhouses that they haven't even hit the ground with the shovel yet, but they're already permitting these docks because they've made sales promise. We send people to their sales office. they're promising docks with the condominiums,
Right.
that those docks are not associated
Through
to the
this, yeah.
condominiums. So we have this feeling that it's kind of a Trojan horse, so that they can then get the docks for the Serena condominiums.
Right.
We're not very happy with that, and we're fighting that. And the public interest right now is a big fight because it's up for review by the Public Interest Committee at the DEP. We've expressed our opposition. The public noticing, we're fighting against that because public noticing was done to 130 people, 110 of which live in the Serena condominium. No opposition. This is what happened. Nobody was able to express opposition because everything happened kind of under the table. And we literally found out, I think the deadline for the opposition was March 5th, and we were here on March 6th trying to stop it. And it was like, oh, well, too late.
Right.
So,
I
and I'm
understand.
sorry I'm being so terse about it, but we were very angry. We felt, and currently
I don't
this
blame you, and
noticing
I think
thing.
we kind of felt the same way too. Mike McDonald has been here and reviewed that whole issue for us some months ago, and unfortunately, there were not a whole lot of ways that it could be stopped at that point in time. Perhaps the permitting and your resistance will help in time. I don't know.
Well,
We probably should move on to your other
Yes.
speaker, please.
thank you very much for
Thank you,
giving
Alex.
me all this
Yeah.
time, and we appreciate it, and we look forward to
The
doing
bridge-
great things.
The
This
bridge
thing's
itself
great.
is going to be somewhat
Thank you.
limiting too.
I'm sorry.
The bridge itself is going to be somewhat limiting also. I mean, that's not
Yes,
exactly a
well-
skyway.
Size
Rumor
of
has
boat,
it that
yeah.
there's a conversation happening about elevating the bridge down
Oh,
the road.
geez.
so
Whose
people
money
don't
would
see
that,
them.
would that be with? That's still part of US alternate 19. That's federal money, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that'll be a help for a change,
Right.
but they won't have the money for that.
Right.
Our ashes will be scattered at sea by the time that happens.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you introduce yourself at the microphone, please, for the
Yeah.
record?
Darrell Lakey, I live on Overbrook Avenue in Clearwater.
Yeah.
I live on the creek. A couple things. Let me correct about the docks. They are commercial-sized docks. They are not the commercial docks. They're 1,600 square feet. My dock is, like most of the docks, is around like 250 square feet. These are massive. They come out into the creek 90 feet, and they're 130 feet wide. The CDB, you did approve it only for the variations. I guess there's a sewer pipe that goes under there, and so they had to get a deviation to move it closer to the property line. So that's all they did. Yeah, they did not look at the marine life, the impact on the neighbors and all of that. So we were kind of upset with them. All they did was rubber stamp. Yeah, they gave them the deviation because of the sewer pipe that's under the creek that runs south. So that's all they did.
Okay.
And I guess you all, Lester, were not involved in that at all, which I can't believe it didn't come before your board.
Well, only to the point of, again, where Mr. McDonald came and basically said that there was nothing in code or nothing in marine regulations that would allow the Marine Board and allow the Aviation and Marine Department to object. So for whatever reason, the rules and regulations were such that there was nothing that they could hang their hat on and say, we don't like this.
Yeah,
And
didn't
I-
go to the city council either. Yeah, I
I
can't
think-
believe that.
I think originally, when it was before the CDB,
CDB.
one of those, when it was before their board, the people that showed up to object were not experts. So it's almost like your opinion doesn't matter because you're not experts. So let's move on.
Yeah, we didn't have letters behind our name or our, what was the word? We didn't have a
Mhm.
standing,
Yeah.
even though we live on the creek.
Yeah.
We didn't have standing. But anyway, you got me sidetracked here. So, about the docks. Yeah, we're worried also about if there was a hurricane, if they're washed up, they could wipe out all the other docks in the creek.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a real possibility. And let's see, the manatee study, we are working with Dr. Beth Brady, who offered her services for free with the Save the Manatee group. So we've already started our studies and our countings of the marine life. The marinas, the manatees and the dolphins. That started a couple of weeks ago. We have about 25 active people who have kayaks. Yeah, they send their pictures, to Save the Manatee Group. And so next year, Dr. Brady will compile all that and give their report and count to the city. So that's going to save them a ton of money. Any
Okay.
questions?
Are there any other comments or questions?
Oh, and the
Okay.
erosion. Yeah, and the erosion thing, I can't believe. Yeah, they need to come to my house.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to say anymore.
No, I have to cut you off
But
anyway.
there is
All right.
erosion, but the main thing is the manatee. We're trying to protect the manatees, and these 9 more boats, and they're right on the channel. It's not going to work. Thank you.
Makes sense. Good luck, Darrell. Thank you. So I think that completes most of the agenda items, unless there's something that any board members want to bring up in addition. We need to go back to what we skipped at the beginning of the meeting. You have new news for us, Danny, or not?
Yes, so you guys can actually be reelected if that's what you guys choose to do and stay on the board until the time of those seats are filled. And Nicole just says that you both need to reach out to Rose.
What was the last part?
Nicole says you both need to reach out to Miss Rosemary, the city clerk.
And what do we want to ask Rosemary?
She'll just be able to connect with you on details, timeline,
All right.
what things are looking.
All right, so irregardless, nevertheless, the time span for my continuing as chair, I think, is unaffected by any of that. So that's okay. I'm done with chair. And we can contact Rosemary to see if either you or I will continue on the board. But in the meantime, what I would suggest this morning is that we go ahead and make a nomination and name you for chair and vice chair. If that has to be changed at the next meeting, that'll be changed. Okay. So again, I guess I'd like to suggest that I nominate Kevin as chair of the board. I guess if anyone's interested, Dina would second that. So we need a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, there's no one left. So we've named a chair. That's great. And hopefully we'll see. No, not so fast. I'm not done with this meeting yet. In addition, we need to nominate a vice chair. So are there any nominations for a vice chair?
Interested? I've run one meeting in 4 years.
I'll do it.
It's not too tough.
So are you nominating Rick?
I am nominating Rick.
All right. So we have a second for Rick. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed is nay, and there are no nays left. So obviously, we've named chair and vice chair, and Kevin and I will contact Rosemary and see what happens about our terms continuing or not, and go from there. Any other items? I think we're done. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming.
Good luck, Chairman. It's all yours.
I didn't
Thanks,
have
brother.
You know
Maybe I
what
should come down there and talk to you, so this isn't official or anything.
the PE stands for?
Don't let the